I want to make the case for creativity within boundaries, which is pertinent particularly now. The time for mammoth budgets, big stunts and big productions doesn't seem quite right, or probably won't do for the next 6 months, that's for sure. But generally, I mean, the sectors that I work in, the B2B built environment, so I market architects and engineers to governments and to developers and local authorities. It's an interesting market, but it is very, very traditional. Construction in the main is run by people who don't necessarily look like me. It's not necessarily that diverse, but over the years, they are trying to change, which is a very, very good thing. So let's talk about creativity within boundaries and what that actually means to me. When I talk about creativity, I don't necessarily mean it in terms of being really wacky. I tend to talk about it in terms of how you can tell your story, how you can convey what you're doing, the process, your thinking, how you got to that final outcome. That's the interesting stuff to me. In some ways, just focusing on a finished product or project really doesn't work for me. You've lost that opportunity to show your creativity along the way and your how and your why. So really what you want to do is show your process. When I think of the construction sector that I've always worked in, I've always had to find ways to be creative, but within, I guess, significant boundaries and constraints. One example is budgets. I don't think I've ever managed a budget or had direct responsibility for a budget that's over £100,000. To be honest, that's not huge when it comes to marketing spend. I've always found ways to kind of be more creative in what I do and not necessarily spend that money when I've had it. So using things like thought leadership and ideas and content to kind of really meet our objectives in a slightly different way. Another boundary I've always found is in the way of creativity was that I had to deal with people who were pretty old school. So they were kind of more into face-to-face networking, black tie events, and generally couldn't see the point in social media. So again, it's trying to find ways to be creative with these types of people. Another boundary, I guess, is the fear of the new, the fear of the unknown. You know, that kind of risk is not necessarily what construction companies are known for. So particularly when it comes to marketing. So it's something that I've had to kind of try and persuade people as I've gone along. But to me, even in the face of these obstacles, you can still be creative and have that spark. So here's some ideas about how I think you can do it. You know, I did the marketing for Mace for 4 years, and actually one of the biggest campaigns I did was Birmingham New Street Station, a massive £750 million redevelopment. We didn't spend that much money actually when it came to marketing, but what we really, really did was focus on the technical aspects of the project to kind of tell creative stories about it. And we also worked in partnership with our client network, Rail, really closely. And we had to kind of work within their very, very many constraints. We did things like, you know, we made films at major project milestones so people could understand why things were so complex. We ran events throughout the life of the project, from press tours with the Prime Minister to celebrating apprentices, to show kind of what we were doing and bring the project to life and keep it front of mind. We also had a photographer who went on site every 6 weeks. The biggest spend we actually did was actually the Concourse Launch in 2015, which was basically where we spent 20 grand. The event was very much about us and our branding and getting us out there and having us kind of mentioned in the main speeches and talked about. There was also a flash mob that was on the concourse, and the BBC Breakfast sofa was there as well, which was great for us to be on local news. How did I manage to carve out a voice for creativity even within boundaries in construction companies I've worked in? Well, very much for me, it's about finding your advocates. They are out there, just look for them. They're the ones who will kind of give you a chance and have vision and foresight to be that bit more creative. I always say don't give up. Always do suggest creative ideas, and don't be hurt if those ideas take years before they actually come to light. And I just say deliver on your promises and words. So once you've got that green light, smash it out of the park. Really, really go for it and make it happen. As life in itself gets more restrictive, we all are facing our own boundaries at the moment. People who don't have the budgets, we're not going into the office, so we don't have the location. So we've got to use other spurs for creativity when it comes to marketing. Now's the time for us to get creative with our ideas and really to use our imagination, to try and find ways to amplify our messages and execute them in more of a digital fashion. But that's quite an exciting time to me, and for me it's a huge opportunity for us all to be that bit more creative. And guess what? There's something exciting about breaking through these boundaries, testing new waters and trying something new. And really, I guess, getting creative with all our marketing ideas going forward. It's a time for opportunity at the moment.